Hey there, Shane Larrabee from Fat Lab here, and I want to talk about page speed, load time, and all that kind of stuff, but I want to do a different take on it. I'm not going to get nerdy and tell you that what measurements you need to worry about and stuff like that. I want to talk about how a lot of what you're hearing is just absolute crap. I cannot tell you how many times in a year I get calls from clients who have hired an SEO expert and they're basically saying they're very concerned. They're like, well, we got our audit back and it basically says that the hosting is too slow and that's hurting our SEO. Well, I'm just going to say it. That is absolute BS, or at least most of the time it is. Sure, there are some really bad hosting companies out there with really overloaded, slow servers. But if you're on a high-performance web host and you're still getting speed complaints, it might not be the host. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to bet it's not the host. It's your website. Let's talk about the real reasons your WordPress website is so slow. So, I did another video about how SEO is basically dead, but let's ignore that. It's still early 2025. SEO is still around and people are still paying for SEO consulting services, and I think there's still some value there. However, there is this myth that perpetuates within that community, and that is if your site is slow, it must be the host. And why am I coming across all aggressive on this? Because I'm often the host, so I'm getting these calls. Though bad hosting does exist, it's rarely the biggest issue. I've worked on thousands of websites, and I can tell you without a doubt, it's how the website was built. Here at Fat Lab, we run some of the fastest hosting available, and I don't mean we're doing anything crazy special. We just have optimized machines with lots of memory, lots of CPU, and a lot of bandwidth, all that good stuff. And I still get clients coming to me and saying, the SEO said my site is too slow, and I need to talk to you about speeding it up or getting on a better server or whatever that might be. Reality check, if your site is loading in under 3 seconds, Google has stopped caring. Stop obsessing about the tiny speed differences. I already know there are already people, assuming you got this far in the video, who are just itching to get at me and tell me all the ways I'm wrong. But here's the deal. I've seen it 1,000 times. The real culprit here is your website. It's spaghetti code and bloated themes. So many WordPress themes are coded like a mess of tangled Christmas lights. If your theme has 10 different CSS frameworks and a bloated page builder, I don't care how fast your server is, it just takes a lot of power and time to push all that data from server to browser. Another reason? You have too many plugins because you needed them all. Again, I've seen it thousands of times. Websites running with 50 plus plugins. Do you even know what half of them are doing at this point? Do you really need 3 different slider plugins, 2 different accordion FAQ plugins, a table generator, and so on? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these plugins, but they add bloat. And again, this is going to slow down the website, and you're going to get bad performance scores. And here's another one that I see a lot of, which is the analytics scripts, the tracking scripts, the marketing scripts, and so on. And I know they all say they won't slow down your website. Well, I'm here to tell you that's just not true. The more assets you load in a website, the more it needs to happen and the more time it's going to take. So think about it. Heat maps, chat widgets, analytic tools, tracking pixels. Your site is drowning in JavaScript. Who even knows what half those scripts are doing? Your ad agency, maybe? And don't get me started on unoptimized images and videos. The classic uploading of 20 megabyte images and wondering why a page is slow. Every page has a background video or hero image or animations, all in full resolution because you wanted it to look HD. Do you really need a looping MP4 of waves crashing behind the text on the About Us page? I'm going to say no. So about the excessive JavaScript and animations and all the eye candy. Look, I love a good fancy effect as much as anyone, but is it worth the half a second load time? Scrolling animations, fade-ins, parallax, backgrounds, all look good, but add lag. Your site isn't a Disney movie. Cut out all the extra fluff. Now that I've ranted about why I think your website is slow and why it's not my fault as the web host, I got another controversial idea for you. Stop obsessing over page speed scores. Just stop. When Google first introduced page speed as a scoring factor in SEO, we were moving into a time where more content was being consumed on mobile devices. Mobile networks were not that fast. Many were still on 3G. So unless you're working in secondary markets, assuming as my clients are mostly working in the US, you're operating on 4 and 5G. People are sitting in offices with gigabyte lines. Hell, they have gigabyte lines at home. Not only that, but in that time, we've all probably bought a new computer, and the CPUs and the memory allocation on those things is insane. And I can tell you as someone who manages servers that the server performance has gotten crazy. What we can do with servers today compared to what we could do 5 years ago or 10 years ago, God forbid, 20 years ago, it's absolutely amazing. So everything around the ecosphere of a website has gotten faster. So if your site is super slow, let's take a second to look at the site. So again, slightly controversial, but if your site is loading in 2 to 3 seconds of page, don't waste your time. Skip over it. Start worrying about how you're going to drive traffic to those pages and not how fast they load. So focus on functionality and user experiences, which can include speed up to a point, and don't necessarily blame your host just because your website is slow.